Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Welcome to Kahuna Help. I've been working all day today on my gaming system. And thanks to Mikaro, who was on during Kahuna Quiet, discovered a rather disturbing defect in my dice system. So I've been working today to fix that. I am here. Welcome aboard. Yeah, rather disturbing thing. Turned out that my dice pool system, in the way I had it set up, 50% of the time was going to deliver no outcome. 0. So I've been spending the afternoon figuring out how to make that work better. Reality is going a bit wobbly behind me. Yeah. Doggo walking underneath it. It doesn't go all the way to the floor, so... And I haven't put any weights on the bottom yet, so I should probably do that at some point. But, yeah, so I was working on that little piece. Then went to go launch the stream and found out that there's a problem with Streamlabs and their bot that helps manage the stream. It says it is under maintenance. How convenient. So anything information wise, I'm going to have to supply it to you. The old fashioned way. Copy, paste, so on. Because I don't have access to any of it at the moment. I should probably... I've been building up just a page with all my links on it. Just in case. So, I've been working on that. Other than that, I'm here to... Today has been full of discoveries. Yes, not all necessarily good. I've been... At the invite link. Expire after never. So I've been putting together all this stuff so I can give it to you guys should you need it. There we go. And if you got questions, I'm here to answer them. That is my goal on Tuesdays, is help you out. Hope the dice problem gets sorted. It will be. What I've done now is I've actually started putting together a simulation program that will simulate the dice rolls and show me where the holes are and where things are not working well. Unfortunately, neither Mikaro or I could really find a good dice roller that was as flexible as I needed it to be. And the funny thing is, it's not really difficult, but dice rollers just don't seem to like it. But we did figure out that when I had 6 dice in the system, about 50% of the dice rolls, the outcomes were no outcome. In other words, neutral. That makes for a really boring game. So I had to figure out how to fix it. Hey, Jamie, why does killing someone make the sky red at sunset? I'm going to go with this as not a joke, but knowing you, it could be. Let's see, why does killing someone make the sky red at sunset? Do you have an answer, or are you looking for me to have one? Lord of the Rings. Why does the sky make it red at sunset? I'm going to have to come up with a good one for that one. Let me think. So if we Huh. I mean, the sky is orange to purple and some red at sunset. There's a lot of dust in the sky that normally creates red. So killing someone... Killing someone powerful could create dust clouds that would color the sunset. Oh, at sunrise. At sunrise, I read it wrong. No, you know what? I'm gonna be a really unpopular guy here and say I tried reading Lord of the Rings, couldn't get through it. I've watched the first movie once. I think I've watched all three of them once. They were entertaining, but they were not movies I necessarily want to repeat. Mrs. Kahuna, however, is a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. So, just wondering why an elf said that in the movie. I don't really know. Okay. So why would an elf say that sunrise, killing someone makes the sky red at sunrise? That's a good question. Perhaps it's a question for the Goog. And you know, I'm not opposed to using the Goog when I need to. I'm sure at this point there is an explanation. So let us search together. I know. Let us search together. Why does killing someone turn the sky red at sunrise? Now, see, someone had looked up sunset. You know, Jamie, maybe it was sunset. All right, I'm going to have to give it some more information here. Let's try sunrise. Oh, good. The dogs decided to wrestle in my room. Yep. A red sun in the Lord of the Rings. Here we go. There's an entire Reddit conversation about it. Elves can see further could mean why does bad things happen? Huh? Legolas sees a red sunrise and claims it symbolizes that blood has been spilled the night before. Nod to the fact that in the books Legolas was a high school English teacher? That makes no sense to me that Legolas was a high school English teacher. I mean, I don't know many elf high school English teachers. All right, so I don't think that was the answer. It was in the Two Towers. So here we are, looking for it. Link it so we can follow along? Absolutely. Once I find one that has an answer, that one didn't have one. Red Sun and Lord of the Rings. Okay, this one I'm going to link you to. This one looks like it's actually a science thread with the same image. A red sun rises. Blood has been spilled this night. The riders killed the Urukai. All right. So here we have an actual explanation, and that is that the writers of Rohan, again, Lord of the Rings, skilled soldiers mounted on horses came upon the trio. The leader of the riders states that the riders killed the Uruk-hai, piled the bodies, and burned them. The burning of the bodies added particles to the atmosphere, creating the red sun. Huh. According to one source I found, it was Legolas was watching bodies burn, which turned the sun red. This is, yeah. And this one says it's not necessarily that they were watching the bodies burn, but that the particles and ashes and smoke from the bodies created the red. And then there's an entire scientific explanation as to why that might happen. I'm telling you, the Goog knows the answers. When in doubt, Goog. Goog. And of course, they're showing, what looks like the wildfires here in California. And we've seen plenty of red sunsets. Not as many sunrises, mainly because the way the wind blows here, the air kind of clears out a little bit more at night. Or, if it's stagnant, it just gets so thick that you don't see the sun at all. Oh, excuse me. That happened for about a week. We saw no sun. But, if you're writing a story, this is one of those little tidbits that you can reach back to. Why would a sun be red? Why would it portend danger? I mean, I know why, the whole idea with sailors, we used to say the same thing. Red skies at night, sailors delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors heed warning. I think that's the way it went. And part of that was because when they were sailing, if you had a red sky in the morning, that means something was driving things into the air. Most likely a storm was coming. Watch out. Where the red sky at night was the sun behind you, and it was likely that stuff was not coming your way. That's particularly true, I believe, in the southern hemisphere. Working on a city that is a city-state. Well, what kind of advice are you looking for? I know you've got the city. You worked on the demographics of the city, which I'm still very impressed with what you did there. What kind of advice are you looking for when it comes to the city-state? You're looking for structure. You're looking for, I don't know, customs, norms. Give me a little bit more. You're welcome, Jamie. Wanted hero has had his question answered. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Questions and answers and applications. Yeah, so Barbarossa, just let me know what kind of advice you're looking for, because any advice is kind of like, hi, do you know how to get to LA? And if you've ever been to LA, you'll know that's about 75 different ways. Annie, not helping. Let's see. Going in is blind. Okay, well, so city-state. So therefore, the city itself is its own government by definition. So if it is a city-state, you're going to have a structure of government. I would probably start with, how is that government structured? Is it representational? Is it monarchical? Come up with, is it a communal syndicate or whatever the quote is from Monty Python? I can't remember. Slightly dumb at city building. Well, that's okay. So, but that leads us in a different direction. So city building. All right. So again, city state. So what does that tell you? Every state, every country has borders. In this case, the borders would be the city limits. Is it insular? Do they keep everything within the city state? Or are they free with everyone around them? If they're free with everyone around them, then you're going to have something that's probably more sprawling, because they're not setting up specific limits. However, if they are in an area where territory is contested, Then they're going to be probably a little bit more insular, or a lot more insular, and have a wall. So they have this wall around the city. So that would probably be the first thing that would dictate how I'd go. What is their relationship to the areas around them, the territories around them? Are they open to people coming in and out? Do they care? Are, have they been at war and therefore are fighting over territories? But again, a city-state means it's likely going to have some type of border delineating it, whether that border is a heavy wall or whether that border is simply a perceived border. Or are they natural borders? To the north, do they have a set of mountains? Excuse me. In my world, the capital city, although it's not a city-state, but the capital city has a wall built around it, but to its north and west are mountains. So they're very well defended there. And to the south is a river. To the west is a forest. So there are natural barriers to people coming into the capital. You may look at Monaco or Liechtenstein, smaller micronations surrounded by more powerful nations. Sure. And they do not have, neither Monaco nor Liechtenstein have hard walls. So if they're not going to have hard walls, then that tells you something about the government. If they don't have hard walls, the government is doing a good job at diplomacy and negotiating where borders are without having to put up some type of structure. Does that make sense? So if that's how you want to look at it, that's awesome. Now that gives you an idea. Okay, Monaco, for example, hilly area surrounding most of it, and the rest of it's ocean. That adds up pretty quickly to a defensible space. Liechtenstein got the Alps to help them out. So you've got plenty of territory there that acts as natural barriers and makes the rest more defensible. Something to think about in the structure of your city. If you're going to talk about how the structure is then, okay, so let's say you have mountains. What do those mountains, besides protection, what do those mountains provide? If you have a river, besides a barrier, what does that river provide? Is it a big enough river to provide for trade up and down the river? Is it simply a source of water? Is it a source of irrigation for nearby agricultural concerns? And how are those things related to the city? So, for example, let's take the mountain example. Well, if it's a mountain, perhaps it has some type of resources that you can dig out. Well, then, therefore, if it's, let's say they're pulling out iron ore, then that iron ore has to be smelted, which means you need to have smelting facilities, and you need to have blacksmiths and some type of smithing and forging facilities within the city, and they would likely be closest to that mountain because you don't want to transport it all the way across. In my mind, Doria is partially surrounded by mountains and sits on a bay and guards the Grand Dorian Canal. All right. So the canal acts as a barrier. The bay acts as a barrier. And the mountains act as a barrier. So now, if it's sitting on a bay, there's likely a fishing aspect to it, right? There's going to be people who fish for a living and for sustenance. So now, immediately when you say there's fishing, then you've got to have a dock area. There needs to be some place where the fish are processed and likely markets nearby. Okay, take everything, start from the resources and work your way into what that means for the city. It will build itself. Because you'll look at things and go, it makes no sense for the fishery to be up against the mountains, right? Why would you truck that? It depends on whether you have ice or not. Now, if this is the world you were talking about, that's mid-20s, they will have some refrigeration, although in the 20s, you were still dealing a lot with ice boxes. You had people who could, generate ice, But refrigerators as a whole were not a commonplace thing. Let's see. Let's actually take a look at that. Again, let's go to the Goog. When refrigerators invented? That's an actually lousy question. 1899. So you're looking in 1899 is when refrigerators were first made. Okay. But let's see here. Refrigerators were not used in homes until 1913. Frigidaire in 1923 had the first self-contained unit. So at the time that you are looking at fisheries, canneries, there are canneries and there are an iron and smelter, which means there's mining, that mining exists. There you go. Boom. You all of a sudden have got a chain, right? Here we go with the refrigeration. And I'll get back to why refrigeration is important. In the time frame that you were looking at Earthwise, refrigerators were just getting into homes in the early 20s, which meant it was likely not everybody that had them. So if you had a refrigerator, you had some bucks. So instead, you were using ice boxes. The ice manufacturer was actually, looks like 1854. So ice manufacture has been around for about 50 years. So there could be a commercial concern that's making ice, which means there's got to be people to either pick up the ice or deliver the ice, which was a big thing. Trucks full of ice, insulated. They would come and deliver blocks of ice. Poor guys would have to carry them up the stairs, drop them off to their customers. And then people would have big insulated boxes. They would open up, put these blocks of ice in, and it would keep everything cold and refrigerated. So in the time frame that you're looking at, that's probably what the majority are going to have, but some of your really upper class people might have that, very rare refrigerator in their home. Now, having said that, now you have to have a way to create the evaporative cooling system. So you've got to have people who can make that. Depending whether you have electricity or not, comes down to how that evaporative cooling system is run. Because nowadays we use electric compressors, but back then they were using electric compressors, which were much bigger because they weren't as efficient. But if you don't have electricity, you got to have a whole nother method of doing it, right? That's a whole nother industry. What are they using for insulation? There's an industry for you. So if you look at just what the resources are first, how a society, how a culture, how a city-state would use those resources, you start to develop a chain. And you can get that chain right back down to the individual. At which point you go, oh, but then they're going to need this. Now you start a whole nother chain. So just let it kind of flow through. So yeah, your city's much more industrial. Now keep in mind, that immediately tells you something else. As a rule, the folks who are in the high upper class are not going to be anywhere near the industry. They don't want those dirty people near them and those dirty things near them. Not in my backyard kind of thing. They love having all the goods, but they don't want to see how it's made. So now that dictates, well, if the bay is here and there's mines in the mountains, well, if bays here and the mountains are here, then the farthest away is going to be over here or over here for the rich folk. And they're going to tend to have better views, and they're going to be as far away from the other stuff as they can. Meanwhile, you need a path for the industrial area, so maybe you've almost got a half moon, depending on the shape of your city-state, that goes from the mountains down to the fisheries, where this is the path of industrialized services, and the rich folk keep as far away from that as possible. If they have a canal and mountain, they could use hydro or wind if coal is available. Exactly. If they're using electric. Again, I don't know enough to know if they're using electric or not. But yes, they could create electric power using the flow of the canal. They could use wind, although that's a much newer thing. I mean, I want to say Hoover Dam in Nevada. Hoover Dam, I want to say it was 1929. Sorry, 1931. Between 31 and 36 is when it was built. So Hoover Dam was built specifically for electricity generation. So that would have been about 10 years past when you were talking about. So they had already come up with the idea. Yeah, an industrial boulevard. That makes sense. They had already come up with an idea and had been using electrical generation from water flow. Hoover Dam then became a massive project to supply vast areas with that electricity. So it would make absolute sense in the time frame that you're looking at for them to have some kind of water, hydro, whatever based generation system. And wind would work as well because they would simply have generators, but they wouldn't be as powerful because they weren't making carbon fiber blades for their windmills that are, 100 feet tall. So it would have been smaller, a local generation. There was no solar for electrical generation. So you're looking at either coal, perhaps gas, although that is much newer, but some type of fuel, or water. You're not looking at nuclear. But then again, remember, your world, your rules. If you decide they have any of those things, then they have those things. Okay? I'm basing it on what we know right now is those things wouldn't be in the right time frame, but you can massage it any way you want. The only thing I caution, like I always do, is have it be consistent to your world. If they figured out how to generate electricity, then all the other things that come with that need to make sense, right? They should probably have light bulbs. They should be able to power other things. Okay? They may not have electric cars, but they're definitely going to have lights on cars that are electric. All the things that come with electricity should be there. Gas. Yeah, and gas could be gasoline, as in oil, because there was oil extraction at that point. Or it could be natural gas. Oil, and gas works. Yeah. Now again, where are those going to be? On that industrial side of town. And here's where you have to get into weather now. Okay? The industrial side of town should be downwind of anything else. Now, generally, if the rich folks are nearer the mountains, then that's probably going to be okay because the prevailing winds could be easily coming down those mountains, sweeping down like they do on the Eastern Rockies and across the city-state and blowing all the nastiness away to their neighbors. You certainly don't want it blowing across the city. If that happens, and on occasion it could happen if winds shift, if that happens, then you're going to have extreme problems because those are not clean energy sources, but those would give you the ability to have industry, to have major industry. One of the ways I like to do something like that is to simply set aside an area. I might even put down streets. Remember that industrial area is probably going to have less big streets because you are going to if they're going to expand, they'll have little access roads to different parts of their plants and stuff like that. But big plants, they're going to have big streets because they're needing to run trucks around there. It's not going to be like little neighborhoods. Okay, it's a bigger area. So just set aside the bigger area and say, okay, well, this is where that stuff is, and fill it in as you need. Oh, I'm glad it's helpful. I mean, this is Kahuna Help. Um, hugs are taken, sir. Hugs are taken. Yeah, I think a lot of times we get bogged down in our own stuff. I'll admit, this morning I was looking at my gaming system, and I mentioned a tool this morning during Kahuna Quiet that is, to me, invaluable for this. But it's called it's a site called wisemapping.com, and it lets you do the mind mapping kind of stuff. And to me, it helps immensely because I'm able to just kind of throw my ideas out there and see how they connect. Working on magic as well, but I don't want magic to be completely right on it. Let's see what I can do with magic. Yeah. Again, think of why the magic is there. I think we discussed, I think it was you, we discussed the other day, the magic in the restaurants. Let's see. So let's see here. All right. So yeah, so this is wise mapping. And say this KS20 is my gaming system. And what I did was I just started breaking down. I said, well, character creation. Well, what do I need to know for character creation? Ding, 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 ding. What do I need to know for battle? Ding, 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 ding. And just, oh yeah, well, battle is, okay, it's a dice pool. And it's like, for example, I already have to change it. Because now this dice pool is changed. It's no longer 6 dice. It's 5. Because 5 will work better. It's also quicker to roll. But this lets me really easily just see what needs to get done and how it interrelates. You could use this, for example, with what you were talking about. You could have your city-state. And you could say, okay, geographic features. List the geographic features around the center, like I got down here. Okay, I've got planning. Well, I've got, weekly schedules over here, hardware need, stuff like that. They're all around that central planning thought. Well, you could say city-state, Doria. Say, okay, geographic features. Well, mountains over here, Well, what are in the mountains? Well, there's mines, there's forests. So what's down here on the bay? Well, there's fisheries, there's, and spread that out, and all of a sudden doing it. And the thing I really like about this is, you'll see here, for example, right there in the middle, there's an arrow. You can add these arrow relationships. That's tied between humanoid and nouveau lichens. And if I move one of those, the relationship stays connected. So I can easily see, okay, this is how these things are connected. So you could do that. So then if you came up with another branch that said industry, then that's what you would do. You could make that connection. Okay, from bay to industry, you'd say, okay, fisheries, there's a connection, bay to fisheries. So, this is a really great tool. Let me put the link on there because, links are friendly. Get it right? Nope, I misspelled it. Wisemapping.com. Check it out because it is a very useful tool. At least for me it is. Let me rephrase that. It's a very useful tool for me. It may not work for you, but at least it's another tool that you can have in your arsenal to help you plan, to help you expand things out very easily and very quickly. So yeah, that's something to think about. And I think, we've talked about this before. You can easily fall down the rabbit hole. Start thinking, okay, well, I've got this, I've got this. Remember, if it doesn't apply to your story, give yourself a little hook. Know it's there. but leave it alone. For example, you just came up with the idea of the industrial boulevard. Awesome idea. So now you basically have this huge main drag that goes, up to the base of the mountains and down to the bay. Awesome. Do you have to have buildings right along it? Not yet. But now that you know the basic areas, you could just say, well, in this area, it's going to be where the fisheries are. In this area is mining, and in this area is going to be heavy industry. Done. That's all you need to know for now, until you need to visit one of those locations. Once you need to visit one of those locations, then you can say, okay, let me build out that location. And you can say, it was the dirtiest foundry on this side of town. The soot looked like death ground up. Whatever, however noir you want to go with it. You could talk about that foundry because they have to go there for some reason. And you could talk about the fact that the entire area had the air of soot and dirt and molten iron. Had the aroma. So you can do that without describing every business in there. Okay? Just have a way to get there and know where it is on your map when you need it. And that's how your map fills out. You don't have to have every place filled out, especially if you're writing a story versus a campaign or an adventure, or an encounter. In those cases, yeah, you kind of need to have a little bit more detail because somebody's going to be playing in this and they are going to mess with your head and go somewhere they're not supposed to go. So in that case, yes, have a little more detail. But if what you're doing is writing as a story, then you need the feel of the area, but not necessarily the detail, because the detail isn't going to add to your story right now. So as long as they know where these different areas are, you're in good shape. So I'm hoping I hope that's helping as well. See, a few more people have joined us. Awesome. Glad to see you. If you've got questions, toss them in. We've been working on some ideas for Barbarossa for his city-state of Doria. And we've covered kind of like all kinds of fun stuff on how to build a city, how to start to plan a city-state. Been debating with myself a lot why I don't fully utilize Magic Punk Industries. Don't like the whole idea of whole interest relying on Magic because it's too hand-wavy. Okay. So let's figure out the answer to that. Why don't they? It could be they don't trust people who wield it. But that sets those people apart more in society than it does necessarily industry. Because let's face it, if a business could use magic to do their stuff, especially a heavy industry, I don't need to hire people. I have magic to do it. So there's got to be a different reason. Perhaps the minerals they mine to use in the foundry tamp down magic. Think kryptonite, or a mild version of it. Or perhaps there is a perceived premium on non-magic created items. And of course, you're going to make things as much as you can where the magic items are, less expensive and can go to the lower economic classes, but the good stuff is machine made of strong stuff. Perhaps that the magic that they wield just isn't strong enough for big industry. They can, poof up a spoon, but they can't make that giant machine turn to create electricity. We're assigned ones that might just need certification. Yes. These specialized keep track of them. Maybe working class industries just don't want to bother with that. That's another thing. Now, does that keep the magicians out? Or does it just say that the industry doesn't want to use magic? And would there be some who, because they know magicians can't get a job there, if a magician's asking, there's usually a problem, right? Because otherwise, why isn't he just doing magic? So if he's asking there, he really needs a job. So therefore, you can pay him less, which means your cost of goods sold goes down, which means you can sell to folks who can't afford as much, and you can mass produce. So that fits right along with what you're saying. They don't want to get the certification. They don't want to use certification because maybe it costs money for the business to have the certification. The magis can't afford the certification or don't want to be tracked for whatever reason, or have lost certifications, so they're going to these industries for jobs, and the industry is going, well, okay, under the table. There you got your seedy side of things. Doesn't mean the magis are seedy. Doesn't necessarily mean the industry is seedy, but there is this background. So there's whole different ways to look at it. Again, we kind of talked about this before, which was how does, it opens many doors. I'm glad. That's what we're here for. What this does is it says the magic is not being used in the open freely. Somewhere there's a story about that. Somewhere there's a reason. It may not be part of your story right now. That's another thing to consider. It may just be accepted fact. Look, magic's not good. It doesn't give us good mojo. It's bad. Magic's not good. And if there is magic, we want to know so we can keep track of it, because it's not good. You don't have to have the reason why yet. It helps, but you don't have to have the reason why. You just have to be able to say, yeah, we're not doing the magic. So I hope that helps. Let's see here. Oh, let me switch over. More interesting. Great. You should be interested in your world and what you're creating. If you're not, why do it? I talked about this last week. Don't do it just to do it. Don't do it to make the buck. Do it because you get excited about it. My wife watches me, and she sees how I do this stuff, and that I will spend hours coding with my head down in the screen and just typing away, and and I'll test, and that didn't work. Oh, I know. And she watches me do it, and she knows I'm engrossed in it. I love to do it. She knows when we have game night, I'm always doing voices. So she knows I have fun doing the voices. And the funny thing was, she didn't think she was going to enjoy doing the streaming on Fridays. And she looks forward to it now. She can have a rough week, but she knows she can go grab a glass of wine. And on Friday evenings, we sit here and talk with you guys and have a great time. She loves that now. So that's where you need to be with it. You need to be where it excites you, it fires you up, it gets you going. Let's see if Streamlabs is working yet. So anybody else who's out there, if you've got questions, toss them in, because that's what I'm here for. And let me toss a question to you guys who are watching. And I've talked about this one before, sort of, but I'm going to ask it in a different way, I think. When you are playing an RPG, what is the number one thing that you enjoy about it? And then what's the number one thing you wish wasn't there or was better? I'm very curious, because as I work on this gaming system, what I'm trying to do is create something to remove the impediments to playing and make the fun stuff easier to get to and more fun. And to get there, I need to know, I mean, for me, it's the math that I hate. It's not that I don't like math. I love math. But when you have to have an entire sheet of paper to figure out one battle roll, that's a little crazy, personally. I think that's a little nuts. Oh, that's what I'm seeing. Light shining through the green screen. So I am curious as to what you guys consider the fun stuff or the not so fun stuff. If Streamlabs ever gets working, I may actually just set up a poll here so you guys can just respond. For me, the most fun of playing an RPG is the creativity, the coming up with stuff on the fly, the trying to figure out what the game master's doing or what he has already done, or she. Coming up with that stuff is the stuff that I really, really enjoy. So let me know. Let's see if there's anything else we've got here. Yes, I'm going to add a timer here. One thing I wanted to make sure people knew was that all of my streams are archived on YouTube. So if you ever seen one of these and you're thinking, oh, I remember he said that on Tuesday, I need to go back. I tag them all with the date. You can go back. They're all sorted by stream, so you can look at the help stream or the read streams or the happy hour streams. I tag them there. I try to edit them down. I also will add, when it comes to the read streams, I will take each individual read and break it down into individual streams. So that's something that I like to do. And if you do go over to YouTube, do me a favor, just give me a subscribe. I'm going to have the link here in just a second. YouTube. I don't have my own little URL on YouTube. I'm still just a lowly, not many subscribed YouTube person. So, if you feel the need to go over there, just hit the subscribe. You don't even have to get notifications if you don't want them. I do stream both. Well, not just both. I stream here on Twitch. I am simultaneously streaming on YouTube and Facebook. So, I'm going to make this a 15-minute with a 20-line interval. Cool. Uh-oh, looks like we're being rated with a stream. Daz, you got the wrong word. Hey, Esong, welcome. Aaron, Stretch, welcome back. Hey, guys. We are talking about building city-states and some stuff like that. But I'm also talking about, I was going to create a poll, but you guys are here. I could just ask you. So, question for the day is, actually a two-part question. What is the number one thing you enjoy about playing an RPG? And what's the number one thing you wish you could get rid of? Yeah, build out Doria, Barbarossa. Build it up. That's awesome. I'm glad you're excited. That's what we should be doing, is getting excited about what we're doing. So yeah, so if you I should create a new poll. Let's add a poll. The thing I enjoy most is creating with other people. Okay. Awesome. So for you, it's really that. It's been so long since I played. Now, man, you're just lying. Get rid of min-maxing. Okay. All right. Moonflower, what do you mean by vultures? The actual vultures, like flying vultures, or vulturous people? Yeah, Esong, yeah. I that's one thing I enjoy, is the creative aspect of it. Yeah, well, yes, you're a GM, but what is it when you are a GM? I mean, I consider being a GM part of playing. Because frankly, you are playing. You're just playing the different end of the game. Get rid of grappling. Okay. All right. I can see that. Yeah, min-maxing. Yeah, that is a peeve of mine. Oh, you mean actual vultures around you. Oh, man. Schedules, players haggling with the DM over money. Oh, in other words, how much money they've carried, and oh, yeah, okay. Power gamers. Yeah, I think that fits in with Stretch's min-max. The way I see a min-max, I think a lot of those players are also the heavy online gamers, to where the way you win is to min-max your character, right? Min-max your soldier, your swordsman, whatever, because that's the way you win at the game, at an online game. So I think that gets carried over into some RPGs. I agree with you on that. After grappling and such into a strength challenge, roll your d20 versus grappler d20. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you get rid of winners. Exactly. Character creation, customization, coming up with cool backstories. Excellent. So the stuff I'm seeing that people like is the creative stuff. That's, and the reason I'm asking again is because I'm coming up with this gaming system, and I'm looking at this and saying, okay, I would agree with you. To me, all the creative pieces, building the world, building the characters, telling the stories, those are my favorite parts. Unlike Aaron, I've moved away from wanting to be the DM anymore. Mainly because I've had players who I can do it, and I actually can have fun doing it. But to me, I do more of that than I do the creative part. I'd rather create the stuff and let somebody else live in that world. Here's the world, you go live in it. So what I want is to create in the gaming system a way to quickly create, if you need to, that doesn't interfere with what you already have. In other words, I do feel that you need to have some kind of guardrails, when you are creating, because if not, you rabbit hole. You go all over the place. You got to have some guardrails, but it should be your choice as to what those guardrails are. So, I want to have things like, well, if you need to create weather, here's a way to do it. If you need to create random terrain, here's a way to do it. If you need to create random loot, here's a way to do it. But it's a tool for you to use. It's not, the way you create the loot is this. It's like, look, no, you need something here. Go ahead and use the tool, or don't. Hate multiclassing for power builds. If a character changes classes, there must be a story involved. Okay. I've actually eliminated classes from my system. And the reason is just that. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to get the bonuses. I want to get... No. I don't have classes. I have skill sets. Period. You want to learn a skill, learn the skill. You'll have to take the steps required to learn that skill. But once you have that skill. That skill does not give you 10 other skills. It gives you that skill. So your character can have all that, and you can have a backstory involved. Why? Because you don't instantly get the skill. You must earn it. You can say you're learning it, but while you're learning it, you must earn it, and you must take some experiences in moving towards that skill. Let's say it's lockpicking. I'm going to learn lockpicking. Great. It's going to cost you this in the system that I have set up. It's going to cost you this, but it's also going to cost you time during which you must attempt the lockpicking. And I guarantee you the first few times you're likely to fail because you're learning. But each attempt, you learn something new, and it moves you closer and closer and closer to having that initial skill. So you improve in that skill as time goes on, and your attempts to use it. It always cracks me up when I'm going to learn to use a saber. And suddenly they use a saber. And nothing is different than using the sword. There might be, they might not be able to wield it as easily, but their experience in using the saber in many of the systems that I've seen doesn't come into play. It's like, he just started using it, and he can hit somebody just as easily as somebody else. No. You just started using a saber. The first few times you're going to use it, you're going to suck. You might get lucky, but you're probably not going to be great until you've used it for a while, and then you gain proficiency. And I think that's actually the word I think I've been looking for, is that there is a proficiency that needs to be achieved before you have a skill. Before that skill is solidified within your character, you must achieve a proficiency. So yeah, the multi-classing, and I think that in a way, but one of the things I'm doing is trying to address that min-maxing and the winning. There shouldn't be a win. Life isn't a win. There are little things that you may win. You may win a battle. You may come out alive from a battle where no one else did. Did you win? Who knows? But you came out alive, so that's a win. But I think the min-maxing, a lot of that is I'm going to use my points over here, use my points over here, and try to... Well, you know what? Easy way to do that is everything is balance. I firmly believe that if you learn a skill, there's only so many skills you can learn. Okay? I don't care who you are. If you learn a skill, you have probably opened yourself up to more skills along that line, but there's probably a skill down the line that you have given up. Or you are even across the board, you are a jack of all trades but master of none. Also useful, but it's a whole different thing. So if you want to have 70 skills, great. You're never going to be the master of those 70 skills. You may be the master of one of them. Maybe. But that should be up to the character. Build it out the way you want and develop the story behind it. I wanted to learn lockpicking. Okay. Here are the stories of while I learned lockpicking. Oh yeah, you remember when I tried to get through that door and instead set off the trap because I wasn't very good at lockpicking yet? There's your story. So they're not really changing classes. They're simply learning a new skill, and I think that's very important. Good feedback. Thank you very much, all of you. If anybody else has got stuff that they like, don't like, let me know. Because these are all things I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take my years of experiencing this stuff and say, how do I get rid of the stuff that sucks and keep the stuff that doesn't? Or enhance the stuff that doesn't. Battles are one of them. I was mentioning early in the stream before the raid, I've been working on the dice system for this gaming system. And it is a pooled dice system, success versus failure. And this morning, Mikaro was online during Kahuna Quiet, and he showed me a website that had something that we could kind of simulate some of the dice rolls. And what I found was that my system was going to fail miserably. IV Sentinel feat. How the hell can a halfling with a dagger reduce a purple worm's movement to 0? Right? Oh, you can't move now. Wrong. Okay. Now, he may get a lucky hit. That's a whole different issue. Yeah, you happen to get him right between the eyes, and it disabled him. Possible. Should be difficult. But that's what criticals are for. So anyway, I was looking at my pooled dice system, and I was using 6 dice. And the idea was that anything above a 10 is a success. Anything below a 10 is a failure. Why am I using 20-sided dice? Because the whole system is based on a single 20-sided die. If that's all you have, you can play. You might have to roll the die more often, but it could actually add some excitement. But that's it. You can play with one 20-sided die. What we did, though, is when we ran the simulation, again, it was designed originally on 6 20-sided dice, or rolling 1 6 times, however you want to put it. +1, a success or a fail, and if you have one of each, it canceled out. What we figured out was that 50% of the time, you had 0 outcome. Oops. That's right, I just rolled 6 dice and nothing happened. Also not realistic. People like most is watching someone new having that meal. They first feel their character and react. Yes, that's awesome. That's an awesome feeling. That's an awesome feeling to have within yourself. When they start actually taking in their character and acting their character, being their character, and everything else just kind of slips away for a moment. Or maybe longer than a moment. When they really get into it, it go away for a moment. And what's happening outside the door, out in the world, doesn't matter for that period of time. That's a role-playing game. That is, to me, the essence of it, is that I can be somebody else. Nowadays, I just want to be the creator. That's right. I have a God complex. I want to create the stuff so that others can immerse themselves, and I want to take that immersion to the point where they don't have to get pulled out by stuff. And again, that's why I was looking at the dice thing today. Because I looked at it and went, You roll 6 dice, and 50% of the time, no outcome. Well, that sucks. And it did. So I spent the rest of the afternoon coming up with a way to simulate the dice and to modify things. One thing was I reduced the number of dice from 6 to 5. Main reason being is 5 being an odd number, it was much more difficult to come up with a 0 outcome. It's not impossible because I also have exploding dice. A 20 or a 1 explode. They count as their success or failure, but you also re-roll. So you can possibly cancel out there. So for example, you got two successes, 2 failures, you roll a 20. That's a success, but the 20 re-rolls and you get a 5. That's a failure, and now you wiped it out. Now you can still get a 0. So had to come up with oh, thanks, Roxarium. Appreciate it. What I had to come up with in the end was, if the result is a 0, you roll 1 die. And at the end, the outcome is that. Welcome to the stream. So, you know, my whole goal here was to eliminate rolling and other adding and having all these sheets and everything. And I failed miserably at it once I did the actual test. Have the explode count for 2 of that result. Also something I'm considering. The danger there, which is not as huge a danger as I might make it out to be, but let's say you did that. Then I have to decide, can you explode twice? So in other words, if I roll a 20 and I roll and get another 20 and I use that double, do they now get 4? If they roll, in the rare event that they roll a third 20, that right there is a 1 in 8,000 chance, but it's going to happen. Do they now have 6 successes? You can see where that can get way out of hand pretty quick, but it's not impossible. And then the other side of that is you could still end up with a 0, because if they explode plus keep the count, rolling a 20 and you re-roll a 1, it still wiped itself out. So if the 1 and the 20 have equal value, equal absolute value, you end up with a 0. And we are all recluses and 50 plus folks, so we are Corona conscious. Big console gamers, I have been patiently teaching them to think in character by representing NPCs and monsters in character. Okay, that's awesome. I think that's where the game master is so important to the role. If you as the game master cannot if you can't create the world for it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do voices or have to, if you can't immerse them in the world in some fashion, then it's going to be very hard for them to feel and to get into it. So a game master really needs to do what they can to immerse their players into the role. And I'm sure Aaron has talked about this on his stream forever. And Aaron, if you've got a thought that's different, speak up. Feel free. I by no means am the only source of information, nor am I, the expert on any of these things. I'm just another guy who's got some opinions. Strong opinions, but they're just opinions. The tiebreaker idea, I think is probably the way I'm going to go with it, which is just, if there's not an outcome, you roll 1 die. And it comes down to that 1 die. And I think that's where I'm going with it. But now I have to, the next thing I have to work on is, okay, so now this is how you roll. How do you affect modifications to the roll? Because again, here the numbers don't really matter because they're just success or fail. How do I modify the rolls? Where I'm leaning to is maybe the tiebreaker die can't explode. Yeah, no, and the tiebreaker does not explode. Yeah, the tiebreaker is a non-exploding, it's just one roll. It's up or down. What I'm thinking of when it comes to modifications, and again, there's two different kinds of modifications the way I see it. There's modifications to hit, or for success, or failure. And there's modifications for the result of that. Damage, for example. So I think those are two different things. For example, you might have a sword that gives you a modification in success to hit, doesn't necessarily do more damage, or you might have a sword that gives you more damage, but doesn't give you a benefit to hit. Doggy bio break, out they go! Be careful, don't step in anything you shouldn't. So I'm trying to work with this idea of, right now, modifying where the success is, where the borderline, like right now, and this is why I have a 20-sided die to do it. Right now, 10's the break. 10 or below, you fail. 11 or above, you succeed. But I'm thinking that modifications for that could simply be you move that center line. So for example, I have a +3 sword. +3 to hit. What that does is it moves my center line down, and now anything 8 or above is a success, making it more likely that I will roll a successful die. It doesn't change the explode. The only thing it does is change my probability of success on that roll, but there's still a chance for failure. And put a limit on that. You know, maybe say there is no way to not have a chance, because that's unrealistic to me. The other reason for me having the multiple dice is I'm tying that to the difference between a strong entity and a weak one. So a strong entity will have the opportunity to roll more dice. A weak entity will not. But keep in mind that you're still looking at roughly a 50-50 shot. But as you have more dice, the level of your success goes up. For example, if you have 5 dice and you roll 3 and 2, 3 success, 2 failure, that adds up to 1 success. That's all you're going to get. But if you roll the 5 dice and you get 4 success and 1 failure, that's now 3 success. That should be a significantly higher outcome, significant outcome, than just the 1. And of course, if you roll all 5 success, that's even bigger. And that doesn't count any exploded dice. Same goes the other way. Failures should get bigger. Okay? You absolutely failed. And you accidentally wounded yourself in the process. It also eliminates the need for a true crit where one die messes up your whole day. All 5 of those dice have to work against you for it to be a really bad day. And that's what's important. It can still happen. Can you roll 5 positives? Absolutely. Frankly, if you're rolling 5 dice, in a sense, there's a 50-50 shot that you will roll 5 positives. In theory, it's 50-50. In practice, it doesn't come out as easily. You basically have a 10 and 20 shot all the way across the board. A 1 and 2 shot all the way back. That was a quick bio break. Woo! Dog must have been in a hurry. So, Yahtzee! Yeah. So, I'm trying to toy with, excuse me, the idea of how those levels work. But I always want it to be where the little weak guy still has a shot. He could still mess you up. I'm just not sure exactly how to achieve that. Because if I make it a difference in the number of dice they're rolling, then it doesn't make a difference. You know, another way to do that, maybe, is eliminate the exploding dice and say that the criticals, the 1 and the 20, are actually worth 3. Loves snow but hates wind. Fair enough. Wind can hurt. So what do you guys think of this? I mean, does this sound like it would work? Does it sound like it would be more hassle? Help me out. Because again, everybody I've seen here so far on the chat, I know. I mean, I don't know you as well, but everybody else I've seen, I know plays. So 12:47 a.m. here, and only just turned the oven on to cook dinner. Stretch, that's you every time you're on a stream. I'm just gonna have dinner. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how that happens. I can't think of what time you must get up in the morning. And are you hungry when you wake up? Yeah, let me know what you think about that, about those ideas, because pretty much. To bed at 8:30, only 2 minutes before my alarm. Morning? What's morning? It's reasoned out. It's just I'm trying to, again, I want something people will use and feel like, yeah, it'll work. Because if you hear something that is like, I don't think so. Okay. You know, they're my reasons, but again, I'm not the only guy. I am not the end-all be-all for creating a gaming system. There are plenty out there. And from what I've been told, there are some systems out there that are similar to what I'm doing. Although nobody's exactly, which that's good. I don't want to be accused of copying anybody. But I want something that people will do. And although I did eat when I was out this afternoon, found a lovely little crepe cafe. Ooh, well, Nutella crepes are my favorite. No banana though. Actually, Nutella crepe with like a raspberry or lingonberry sauce over the top. Yes, I just squirreled. Experiment with a fistful of dice. All right. I'm going to feel very inadequate here in a moment, but I will admit it. There it is. That's my whole dice bag. I'll admit it. That's it. I have exactly 2 D20s. Although I do have, my favorite, which is The shiny metal one. I like that one a lot. It was somebody had them on sale one day and was like, oh, I gotta have that one. I gotta have that one. No idea. I'm new to world building in general. Never played a tabletop game. Oh, okay. Awesome, Rock. Well, Rock, if there's questions you have, that's what this stream is for. I'm sitting here blabbering on about my system, but if you have questions about your world building, ask them. One, we have people in this chat who are awesome at it. And I'm, that's why I do this particular stream, is just so we can help you guys out, especially if you're just starting. Oh no, I'm thinking, yeah, that's. I'm almost tempted to buy one of those bag o' dice. And I really want to have one of those huge 20-sided. Had a banoffee crepe, banana with toffee sauce. Oh, wow. Aw, Esong, that's so nice of you. Blushing. Yeah, we're here to help. that's what we do. I have my own world. I have my own stuff going on. I squirrel a lot. So yes, if I get off topic, feel free to say, hey, but earlier we were working with Barbarossa on his city-state and some ideas on how to flesh it out, because he's not as familiar and not as comfortable building a city. So we fleshed out some ideas, and I'm not going to tell you how. Frankly, I don't think anybody here is going to tell you how. What we're going to do is try to give you some ideas and give you some material to work with so you can get going, in your own flow. Now, it's a bit overwhelming, but not at the same time. We're also looking on Reddit. People talk about tectonic plates. Yeah, you will get great feedback. Esong is absolutely right. And the thing is, don't worry about people with tectonic plates. I've done it, but it's not the basis of my world necessarily. Don't worry about those things. For exactly that reason. Exactly. Let's ask a simple question, Rock. What is it that you want to do with the world? Are you looking to write a book? Are you looking to come up with a game? Is it just for fun? What is your focus for creating a world? If Esong beat me to it. Unless you want to. Yeah. It's figure out why it is that you want to build a world. That's where you start. Book, stories, and fun. Awesome. Cool. So here's the thing. Do tectonic plates matter in your idea of a book? If you're going to be writing about someone who's a seismologist, probably. If you're going to be writing a high fantasy book, maybe not so much. That's the kind of thing you have to look at is, does this really matter in my world? And Esong was the first one to ever hear me say it on stream, and I say it almost every stream. Your world, your rules. Okay? You don't have to have a tectonic plate anywhere. There's no rule. It's your rules. Make your rules consistent within your world, and that's all that matters. Writing about and researching tongue bring you joy? No, not really. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm a geek, so the science stuff fires me up. I love doing that stuff. That's who I am. Terry Pratchett has a world on a turtle. There's earthquakes because turtle slipped. Yeah, I mean, again, your world, your rules. start with what interests you. And 4 elephants. Yes. 4 elephants. Rock, what do you know? A genre that you're interested in? Are you interested in fantasy? Are you interested in sci-fi, cyberpunk, steampunk? Do you have a genre, or is it a mix of genres? And mix of genres is totally cool. My world actually is a mix, depending on the time, where in the timeline you are, of sci-fi and fantasy. You leave us pretty open-ended, we'll go off and we are all squirrels at heart, and we love rabbit holes. The bigger the rabbit hole, the more likely we are to just go headlong into it. That's what I'm doing right now, sort of hyper-focusing on alchemy. Okay. Sci-fi fantasy feel. Okay, cool. So, what do you like about fantasy? What are the aspects of it that you enjoy? And what are those things that you don't enjoy? There is no right or wrong answer here. Okay? There's no, oh, you can't do that. That's not bull. Your world, your rules. What do you like about fantasy, and what don't you like? Because that's going to be the start. Focus on the stuff you like. I like that I feel like everything is possible. Call soft magic. Okay, call it what you want. Everything's possible. Perfect. That creates not only possibilities in your world, but conflicts in your world. And that's where the stories will really arise, is when you've got the conflicts. Daz is absolutely correct. We call it world builder's disease. Agile world building, yep. Yeah, world builder's disease is when you go down the rabbit holes, and all of a sudden you're figuring out what the taste of a nut on a particular tree is like, and it has nothing to do with your story. Okay? We all have done it. We all still do it. Anybody who does not go down a rabbit hole, who tells you that, is a liar. Do not trust what they are saying. No elven shoes. Yeah, we all go down the rabbit holes. It's okay. Pull yourself back from a rabbit hole. Say, okay, how does this relate to my story? Now, you may sometimes kind of go down a little bit of a path and go, oh, that's an interesting thing. It doesn't relate to my story at the moment, but later it will. Great. Flesh that out a little bit. Or just leave yourself a little clue. Never. Naya! Beware the rabbit hole and wear a safety line. Yep. Mostly redefining already made things with minimal changes. Okay. So again, that gets back to, describe what's different, not what's the same. If there isn't a significant difference, there's no reason to describe it. It tastes kind of like maple syrup, but spicy. Okay. I don't need to tell you what maple syrup tastes like, and I don't need to tell you what spicy tastes like, but I know if I taste that, it's going to be maple syrup, but spicy. What I will especially do is, give me an example I'll keep prattling while you do. Is they feel like they have to fill every single one of the blanks on an article page. Don't. You're telling in the world you're creating, don't fill it in. A lot of people find that, I'm just repeating myself here. Well, yeah, because you didn't need all that stuff. If you don't need it, don't fill it in. World Anvil is a framework. It's a scaffolding for you to build out on. It is not a Bible for your world. It's a framework. You're writing the Bible of your world. You're writing the codex. So you want to talk about a character's experience with beer or brewing. Would you just say the character brewed this? If it was exactly the same as brewing in real life, yeah, I probably wouldn't go into it. He brewed it. Now, if there's something important or different about the way they brew it in massive kegs that can hold 75 horses. I don't know. Then yeah, that piece you describe. But otherwise, you brew it. Stretch says he only uses the vignette in the sidebar. Yeah. Preach. Most people, including me, don't know the intricacies of brewing. Do they need to? Do most people who grab a beer and pop a cold one know the intricacies of brewing? Probably not. But they know what it tastes like. And they know that they want the brew. Unless it makes a difference to your story and your world, you don't need to flesh it out. If at some point you want to distinguish a brewer from the rest of brewing, describe what that brewer does differently. The only other caveat is if it was important to show that your character was a master brewer, right? Yeah, there's a good. Daz has got a good one there. What was he thinking or feeling about as he brewed? Yeah, you can do that. Why is he a brewer? Yeah. Why? We've talked about this also many times before. Why is the best question you can have. Why is he a brewer? Why is his brew different? Why do we care? Seriously, thank you for the advice. Oh. No, hey, look, this is what we do, especially on this stream. And I will tell you that almost any of the Ambilight Streamer Core streams, I mean, some of them go off on gaming for a little while, and that's cool too. But pretty much any of them, even if they're gaming, you can pop questions in. And we're going to answer them for you because we want you to grow too. We want everybody to experience this. Join some Discords. Yep. Let's see. Let me throw mine in. And if you're not on the World Anvil Discord, you really need to get there. There's mine. Join the Discord. Ask questions. Have fun. Why did he get into brewing in the first place? Excellent. Why in this place? Is there something that makes that special? Why are we talking about the brewer in the first place? Excellent. Well, thank you. If you have pivotal thought, feeling epiphany while brewing, look up how to brew so you can pick the one brewing step it happened at. There you go. Yeah, and my apologies to those of you who've been around a while, but I'll let Rock know this little bit. I have had a story in my head for over 30 years, close to 35 years. And until I found World Anvil, I couldn't find a way to start telling that story. I would write a few pages and get bored or, oh gosh, but I need this over here. And it just got overwhelming. World Anvil lets me pull all those different pieces together and put them somewhere and connect them. I may not go back to something for months, but it's there. I didn't forget it, and it's not on a piece of paper that I can't find because it went on my desk and somehow it got thrown away. No, it's in one place. That's the real beauty of World Anvil, is all your thoughts get pulled into one spot. Why not, and not cider, ale, or whiskey? That's another good why. Out to a real life meeting. Thanks. Esong, thank you for coming. I always enjoy when you jump in because you've got always have some great feedback. Enjoy your meeting, maybe. By the way, Esong, we're not going back to school here until after January 1st. Found out today. See you in the Discord. Oh, I suck at those things. Nope, just not. Is that it? Is that it? I get it right? Maybe? Sort of. Okay. Not bad. Yeah, Rock. Consider these your tools. These streams, the Discord servers, World Anvil itself. They're tools to bring out what's in you. Okay? I got it. Yay! We're not going to tell you how to write your world. We're going to give you ideas. Sometimes the ideas will feel overwhelming. It's okay. Relax. Use what you got right now. Okay? One of the things on World Anvil that I think is underused is the field Storyteller Seeds. When you go to an article, you know what? Let's do it this way. Let me actually show you. Because you're new to World Anvil, and this would probably be helpful. I hope. So, let's say that you are writing an article. And you're plugging along on the article, and you think, oh, shoot. Let's talk about the, let's say we're talking about the brewer. Oh, shoot. Yeah, his best friend is a partner in the brewery. What you can do really quickly is if you hit that button down at the bottom, and you saw what I did, that plus button, it pops out. Here you can do quick actions that get you very quickly to create something. Now, you don't have the whole story of his partner yet, but you know he's his partner, right? So you can go in here and you can type in, you can say, okay, this article is going to be a person. So it's character. And brewer's partner, we're just going to call him that now. Brewer's partner. And he's a character and partner of the brewer. Now down here, this second one, what have I seeded with my players? Here's the important part. Players is an interesting word because it assumes the role playing, but the fact of the matter is this field is seen by no one but you. Period. Just you. So what you can do is say, partner of the brewer, they own the brewery together. And I misspelled it, but that's okay. So now I'm just going to hit create article. Bang, there is now an article called The Brewer's Partner. And if I go to my articles here, you're going to see that right at the top, because it's the most recently created, is going to be Brewer's Partner. Now, this is where, and I'm hoping it's still this way. It was this way. I'm taking it. No, not that one. Okay. So Brewer's Partner. So now, if I'm writing and I think, oh, gosh, yeah, now I want to flesh that out. You can search for Brewer's Partner, or if you know where it is, go right there. Yeah, you can use that plus button anywhere. So now I can go into Brewer's Partner, and if I go in to edit the page, you're going to see already there, it's going to have in the Storyteller Seeds, they own the brewery together. It was already there. So now when I go back, it's like, oh yeah, that's, so I use the Storyteller Seeds to remind me of what an article is about when we create these stubs. That's what we call it when we create those short little articles from the instant creation button, the quick creation button, is that those, let me go in there. The other beauty of it is if you are writing and you create, let me create another one real quick. We're going to say Brewer's Wife. We're going to call it Brewer's Wife. So I'm going to say it's another article and it's another character and it's the brewer's wife. And I'm going to say, married to the brewer, and in the secrets, a bit of a shrew. Okay? And I save it. Now, here is the wonderful piece. Now that I have created it here, I can hit escape to make that window go away, and I can now add her into this text. I can add a link to that article like that by just using the @ system and saying @brewer, and I know her name is Brewer's wife, and look, there she is, Brewer's wife, the person. I click on it, and now there's a link straight. So when you are writing the story and you're writing an article here, you put that in there and think, oh, I need to refer to this person back later. You can create a quick article that just has the barest of information and immediately link to it using the @ system without having to remember anything else. Next time you go to this page, the brewer's page, there will be a link on that page in the text to the brewer's wife. And if you click through, it's going to go to her page. That is where World Anvil just excels at connecting your information. And that's why it's such a great scaffold for you, because you are able to quickly create a stub, a placeholder in a sense for that information, and then drop it in immediately so that later you can take all those links. And unless you have made the article public, those links do not go live to anyone seeing your site. So they're just going to read about they're just going to see partner of the brewer, brewer's wife. That's all they're going to see, and it's not going to link. And it makes it very, very easy and very quick to create and to put those ideas that just pop up somewhere. You don't have to address them right now. You just know you have a way to get to them. And when you look at the page on your end, on the back end, and you do the view, you'll see the links. People outside of your view will not see them until those links have been made public. So unless I make the brewer's wife public, nobody knows that they can click on it. But if I'm looking at it, I'm going to see that the link is there. So in fact, I can do a preview here real quick. And you'll see that there's the article. You can see in the red at the top, that's my storyteller seed. So that's telling me, hey, the brewer's partner, they own the brewery together. Partner of the brewer, @brewer. That is not a link. Okay. See, @brewer's wife is not a live link. Yes, that shows at the top, so it's very easy to get to. Another question. I asked this on the World Anvil Discord and got a response, but I want your opinion. What article type would you use for a day of the week or a month or a season, like defining winter or February or Tuesday? Okay. First of all, create your calendar, because you can define your days of the week that way, and they can be any format you want. You want 10 days in a week? Fine. You want 3? Go for it. You create your calendar. And in there, you can define individual days. Now, if you are going to create a time frame, then I would probably use, and let me take a quick look at the categories here, or at the articles. Actually, let me go to my dashboard. It's got moved to the dashboard now. All right, so I would probably use, if it's something like winter, spring seasons, I would probably use something like natural law, because you're defining something that's in the world that the average denizen of that world is not going to be able to change. Okay? It's a natural law. So here you describe it. You can describe when it happens, the whole 9 yards. You can also describe the months that it happens in and refer to those in your calendar. If you're looking for a specific day and in your timeline, and creating timelines is very helpful. Create a timeline and then choose the day and create an event for that timeline. Or if it's a period of time, you create an era on that timeline. Didn't even know there was a calendar. Yes, sir. Timelines and calendars. If you click on that, it will take you to the calendar creation page. Actually, it takes you to the timeline page, but the tab, third tab over right there, is the calendar page. No worry. So, yeah, don't get overwhelmed with World Amble. Ask the questions in the Discord, but also go on some of these streams, because I guarantee you, again, we've all run into these issues. We've all had these questions. And most of us have gotten pretty good at answering them because we struggled through them ourselves. So if you have those questions, ask them. I need to figure out the calendar. All right, well, let's see. I'm going to call this the Bork calendar. I'm doing these so I know I can find them and delete them later. Yes, and there's actually been a new update to the calendar this month. So there's the name, there's the description. You can actually say what year you want it to be. Guys, you haven't used it? Keep in mind that here is you add weekdays. So add as many days of the week as you want. Months. How many months do you have? Celestial objects. Why? Do you have a moon? Does it have phases? For example, if I click add celestial object, look. So you can then say, okay, on this date, the moon was this. So you can see it here. The whole thing is, you name it, its cycle, so how many days it takes to go. Shift. Shift, I believe, is off of the standard calendar. Right, so if you've got the first calendar, when did the moons, if you call this the moon, it's got a 10-day cycle. How far from the first day was it? Was it a new moon on the first day? Was a new moon 3 days later? Okay. Icon. These are font awesome icons. The color of the icon, so you can change the color of that icon. Celestial object description. What is it? It's a moon. It's an asteroid. It's a space station. Doesn't matter. And you put it all in and it will show you those phases. So you can add a celestial object. And then you go from there. So you can create your own calendar right down to the stuff in the sky that is based on that calendar, or vice versa, the stuff in your world that is based on that celestial object. For example, most months, the concept of months in our world is moons. 28-day cycle. Yes, we changed it a little bit because guess what? It's not exactly 28 days. And so things got wonky, and we've had multiple calendars. But the month, the root is moon. Okay? 28-day cycles. That's how we base our time. A week, a month, we generally think of it as 4 7-day weeks. And then there's the CSS rabbit hole. We're not going to get into CSS with Rock for the moment. Let's let Rock get his world kind of rolling a little bit before we start talking about making it look really pretty. Yeah, we don't want to go into that rabbit hole just yet. Um, we're trying to make Rock feel better, not scared. Oh, cool. Excellent, Rock. Awesome. Don't have to worry about CSS then. If you are just as a freeman, meaning you're not paying for an account, then CSS is really not going to mean a whole lot to you right now, because freemen don't have access to CSS. But if you become a guild member, and this is one of the huge benefits of becoming a guild member, you can change the CSS of your world darn near completely. There's some things that are very difficult or impossible to change, but most of it is there. I got the highest tier. Oh, welcome, Master. Grandmaster, I believe, is the tier. Yes. Yeah. So you got it all. You got it all. You'll have. Yeah, Grandmaster's a cool tier. Welcome. Yeah, so you'll be able to do your CSS. I'm not sure if that gets you into the Sage coffees or not, but yeah, you're going to be able to do just a ton of stuff. So yeah, we'll get into CSS. Actually, you can play with CSS all you want. My recommendation, however, if you're going to go to if you're going to play with CSS, create a second world just to do that. It's really easy to bork it, because CSS in this world is not on World Amble is not straightforward. There are some quirks to it. For example, things that you may be used to using may be you may have to do complete workarounds. There are certain words, for example, for security purposes, that are stripped out of the CSS. So if you try to use the word container in your CSS, despite the fact that it is in the world CSS, if you try to address something with a container class, it won't go through. It gets stripped out. So you're going to have some stuff like that. So I recommend doing it on your own world, on a separate world first, and seeing what works and what doesn't. And then when it doesn't, because you'll hit those, even the people who really know CSS hit those all the time, jump onto the Discord and go into the guild-css-help Discord channel. That's where you're going to find the answers. Check the pinned messages first, because I would say 75% of your answers are going to be there. Sage roughly double the price of GM. Yeah, probably in that neighborhood. I'm on the Inner Sanctum, and I think it's a little bit more than GM, or a little bit more than Sage. Cool. Awesome. So we won't go to the CSS rabbit hole yet. But if you have questions about that, come back here. I have written and completely borked my CSS at least 5 times now. And I'm fairly confident in working with it now, the World Anvil CSS. So yeah, definitely come back here, because it's stuff that we truly have learned to fight with. So I'm hoping that's helped so far. One thing I also will encourage you to do, I do a daily stream. I'm doing writing sprints on it. Runs from about 8:30 Pacific to noon. I call it Kahuna Quiet, and the reason I call it that is that my wife is a teacher, and we share the same space. She's on the other side of the green screen. And so while she's teaching, I can't talk. Today was kind of a rarity. She was done by 10 o'clock, so I was able to turn the voice on. But other than that, I can't talk, but I can chat, and I can show you things online. So if you have a question, I can do exactly what I did today, which was go online and show you. It takes a little more time because we've got to talk through it, or chat through it, as opposed to talk through it. But I'd be more than happy to help you out. That's why I do it. And if nobody needs anything, then I just work on my stuff. And you see me working on my stuff. But I do have writing sprints that are nonstop. They start when I get online, and it's a 15-minute write, 5-minute break, and they cycle through. So I encourage you to come back for that. I do announce that on the Discord on World Anvil as well. So definitely, if you want, come in for that. And if you've got questions, come in and ask them there. If you have not become a member of my Discord yet, please do. You can always reach me there. It is not nearly as trafficked as World Anvil. Oh, this is definitely a different stream than the Writing Sprint one. Yes, the Writing Sprint is daily. You did join it. Excellent. Cool. So ask questions there because I'll get notified on those. Or just chat. We got people there. Yeah, this is not the Writing Sprint one. The Writing Sprint one runs from, like I said, about 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, sometimes a little earlier, to noon. That's Pacific time. So we got 3.5 hours of writing sprints. I do that for the morning folk because there's lots of streams in the evening that do writing sprints. Writer Greg has got a great sprinting stream. Stretch, I think. Stretch, you do writing sprints, right? Or do you? Also look for Shy Red Fox does writing sprints. Danny Adventures does writing sprints. I think Lorraine Allay does as well. He does. Yeah, see? So we've got, yes, I do. See? So we have sprints darn near round the clock around here. So join in on any of them because that's what we do. I do mine in the morning because there's not as many in the morning that I see. So basically you write on stream. Yeah, when I'm doing a sprint and when everybody else, yeah, write on stream. I tend to use my sprints for whatever it is I'm working on. So it might be that I'm writing in my world. It might be that I'm working on dice, but I use them to give myself a little bit of focus. Yep, 15 minutes. All you do is write. Most of us have music in the background. I don't even know if my music's playing. Thought it was. Oh well. Yeah, so the 15-minute, it's just a way to focus. Yeah. With coding, it's like, okay, I need to just grind. I need to put my nose to the grindstone for 15 minutes. Go. Off you go. Then you take a break. Yeah, mine are 15 and 5. 15 minutes of sprinting, 5 minutes of break, and then it just rolls. Mine in the mornings, they're constant. And then I had a little fun with it. The sprints are announced by different voices. So you might hear Kermit the Frog tell you it's time to start writing, or the Count from Sesame Street count down to tell you it's time to stop writing. James Brown. I've got James Brown in there. Yoda. Yoda has also made his appearance. I actually have about 15 voices. Yeah, so voicing is another thing I do. That's my Sunday streams. Sunday, I read your articles. So if you go on the Discord, you see a Kahuna Reads channel. If there's anything you want read, voice acted, drop it in the Kahuna Reads stream. Drop a link. More than happy to use that. In fact, lately, I haven't had anything to read. People aren't putting stuff. Bill Clinton is in there, yeah. Bill is in there, all right. Bill will help you out with your writing and tell you to have a nice day. Yeah, Bill is there. I have fun with these. I'm going to change the Pee Wee Herman because Pee Wee's not great. Batman, however, is there. Batman is there. Trying to think who else is there. I've got like the Surfer Dude. I've got Stoned Dude. I have Mrs. Doubtfire. So and you never know. It's randomized, so you never know who's coming up next. So all of a sudden, the voice will tell you, "Hello." Which Batman? Just the Christian Bale-ish Batman. So your time is up. So I have fun with the voices. Well, Stretch, I'm going to be gone. It's 5:30, and if I don't get out of here, Mrs. Kahuna is going to come up here with a hook, and I mean a sharp one. So let us see who we can raid this evening. I need to pull up my handy dandy calendar for the Anvilite Streaming Corps. Time's up. Run. You are more than welcome to be back, Rock. Tell a friend. If you got other people who are, got questions, bring them. We got answers. Or we make them up. One of the two. We're good at both. Going to send you over to Harold's table. If he's up. Does anybody know if Harold is up? Harold's checking his oven. Or Stretch is checking his oven. Chips are done enough to put onion rings in. Ooh. All right, so it's between Harold's Table and Roll Society. You tell me, guys. Who do you want to go to and who's up? Because Harold's Table's up. All right. Unless I hear different, we're going to Harold's. All right. That's the one thing I have learned because my computer is not the most powerful. I don't have Twitch up. So I can't see who's actually up at any given time. It's just no bueno. All right, so I'm going to send you over to Harold's Table. Guys, this was a really fun stream. Had a great time. We had some great conversation. Thank you for your input. All of it. What about Roll's Table? That's just like a dual stream, right? And also, you guys, I am thinking about starting to do some collaborative streams where I bring you guys in either through Zoom or through Discord or something to bring you up on screen. So if you'd like to do that, drop that in my general chat on my Discord. If you'd be interested in doing that and chatting about stuff, and we can come up with a couple topics ahead of time and go through those topics. But I think this is a perfect stream for that because we can come up with topics that might be helpful to people like Rock, or for those of us who are more experienced and just bat things around. So if you're interested in that, go onto my Discord on the general channel. Let me know, and we'll figure out a way to do that. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to send you off to Harold's Table. I appreciate you guys joining and your input and all the fun. I hope you guys have a great week. I'll be back on Kahuna Quiet tomorrow morning. And if not, make sure you join us on Friday for Kahuna Happy Hour because Mrs. Kahuna's back. So we'll see you at Kahuna Happy Hour. That's 3:30 p.m. Pacific on Friday. Have a great night, you guys.